Hello everyone, welcome back to A Light in the Dark. Let's go ahead and continue. Amidst the fuzziness, I had a dream. It seemed to be an afternoon after school. My mother hugged me so tight that it made my arms uncomfortable. She kept crying and apologizing, wetting my face with endless teardrops. Why was she crying? I blankly looked at my emotionally collapsed mother. Even the supposedly familiar face appeared unfamiliar at that moment. Even though she was the one who betrayed father. Even though she was the one who abandoned us. So why did she look so sad? I couldn't ask the simple question from my heart. Yet the voice answered nonetheless. That's how the adult world works. That was a depressed yet still young voice. Within the darkness, I realized that it was none other but my own voice. I woke up from my dream in shock, with the realization that my face was all wet. I couldn't recall the details of the dream itself, just the sense of bitterness weighing on my chest, rendering me breathless. There were a few spots of white light from outside on the ground. I was so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat and the wind from the window. It was probably 4 or 5 a.m. I must have woken up early because I slept way too early the day before. I sat up to stretch my body, with the joints making clear, cracking sounds. The last bit of my dream vanished with the morning light. I noticed the girl was leaning against the door with a blanket, with a knife next to her body. She had clearly fallen into a deep sleep. Worrying I might escape, she didn't even want to sleep in an actual bed. She had a slender body, clearly due to malnutrition, and her unkempt shoulder-length long hair was tangled in multiple places. Her long eyebrows were wrinkled together, as though she couldn't find peace even in the dream. Her long hair didn't seem very healthy, and even the color was not consistent. One probably couldn't care less about their hair when eating for the night alone was an uncertainty. She could be a beauty if she cleaned herself up and maybe put on some makeup. Carefully observing her asleep face, I almost forgot she was a kidnapper. Having a totally different family might have led to a totally different life for her. The world is not fair. I murmured what she had said and wondered what emotions she said that line with. Helplessness towards society? Self-pity? Rage against the rich? I decided to stop thinking about it and focused on figuring out what to do. There's no point in taking too many risks. They might just let me go after tonight. Hearing her voice, I was glad I didn't try anything crazy. I finally managed to let her lower her guard around me. I just needed to be patient and wait for the opportunity. Good morning. She tiredly yawned and looked at me unpleasantly. waiting for breakfast. She clearly didn't buy it and walked up to me with the knife. She checked that the rope was loose.
今日親父が金を払ったら解放してやるんだから変な気を起こすなよ。
Alright, alright.
黙って一言も口に出さないのが一番。わかった。
You'll never make friends if you are this bossy, you know? I responded jokingly, but she didn't seem to appreciate it. She stared at me briefly and decided to say nothing more. She then walked to the bathroom to clean up. Unlikely as it might be, if they were going to pay the ransom, they would let me go without me risking anything. The real problem would be if it was just to buy time. I wasn't sure what they would do if there was a delay. Either I escaped on my own or waited for the police's rescue. Well, I would worry about that after tonight. Let's maybe observe just in case. Nothing really new here. Maybe the phone? I'll check back on this. Maybe there's something to talk about. Why do you owe so much money? Why do you owe that much money?
親父が他の人と一緒に会社を立ち上げたけど、その人が金を巻き上げて逃げた。
That should be none of your business, though. You can just file for bankruptcy.
親父は少しの辛抱だと思い込んで、闇金にまで借金をしてしまったんだよ。あの人は経営に向いてないんで、また倒産した。金を儲けるどころか、自分も夜逃げしやがった。
But legally, that's his own debt.
法律?
She cut me off with a grunt. She then asked with raised eyebrow.
これを学校のテストとでも思ってんの？みんながちゃんと法律を守っていれば、警察なんかいらないだろ。
So, no one can help you? She looked at me with amazement.
あんたは自分の人生に責任を持つことをちゃんと学んだ方がいい。これはあんたたちが一番よく言うセリフじゃないか。
I mean...
もういい。それとも私がどうやって生きてきたのかってことまであんたに報告する必要があるとでも言いたいのか？
She shut me down decisively and fell into deep thought next to the window with her cigarette. I guess we can talk a little bit more. You look pretty tired.
ほっといて。
She replied sourly, yet the thick dark circles around her eyes said it all. Guarding me around the clock, plus the heavy mental stress, had taken quite a toll on her body. Get some rest if you aren't feeling well.
なんだ、警戒を緩めさせようと言いこぶってんの？やめとけ。
Can't move around tied up like this. Besides, I'll be out of here if you get the money today. I'm not so dumb as to risk my own life.
分かっていればいい。
Let's take a look at the note. Let's see. The cause of her death was her father borrowing money from a loan shark. No one had heard from him after he skipped town. Okay. She grunted and relaxed herself a little next to the wall. Well, our chat's gone, so maybe a cigarette? Oh no, that's not it. That isn't really useful. Let's see. That sticky taste after drinking too much of it. Let's see. That's our backpack. We lost our action. A strange looking lamp that doesn't even have a lampshade. I don't know what era it might have been made during. Can I toss it like a weapon? I have to untie myself first, though. She couldn't seem to calm down on the big day. Pacing around the room, she kept checking her phone screen. Sound from outside of the door. Judging from the girl's shocked reaction, I wasn't imagining it. What could that be? There were questions in my mind, but I was pressed against the wall before I could even open my mouth. The girl covered my mouth in panic and raised the knife against my neck. The blade was so close I wouldn't dare to move an inch. Not able to stop the trembling in her voice, she put more force into her hand. The sharp end would stab into the throat with a simple push. If it didn't appear to be an accomplice, since it didn't appear there were any other residents, one wouldn't expect a sudden visit. Police, maybe? They might be able to find me through surveillance camera footage or my cell phone signal. But could they find us this quickly after only a few days? Following the train of thoughts, the steps got closer. Then it stopped right before the door. There was no hesitation. Straight to the destination. In other words, they knew there was someone here. As though waiting for something, there was no sound outside of the door. No one seemed to want to break the silence. Her tense right hand trembled a little. I could see the sweat dripping down her cheek. The little girl's voice came through the door. She breathed out heavily and dropped her arms as though exhausted. She opened the door to greet the little girl, who was carrying her bag, and looked at her big sis innocently.
何をしている? どれほど危険なことだか分かっているの? 声をかける前に私が切りつけてきたらどうするつもり? ごめんなさい.
It was rare to see her getting mad at the little girl, who lowered her head apologetically. Through the door, I could see the view of the stairs. The red armrest and gray wall were common sights in an old apartment building.
もういいわ。警察じゃないならそれで。待って、こっちに来ないように言ったはずだよね。何があった？誰かがあんたをよこしたの？
She raised her head suddenly and started to shake the little girl's shoulder with a nervous expression.
じゃあなんで？
姉ちゃんと一緒にいたいだけ。
Her direct response rendered the girl speechless, and she became lost in thought while rubbing the little girl's head. That little girl's motive was simple. She just wanted to be with her big sis, but her sister had more to consider. How to avoid police pursuit. What to do after getting the money. As difficult as it was to escape on her own, let alone taking care of the little girl.
この荷物はどうしたの？
Deciding to let go, she took the plastic bag.
王さんが持たせてくれた。昨日の残りだって。
彼女は全部知っていたの？
わかんない。体に気をつけてって。何があっても相談しに来ていいよって。
She seemed to lose her usual cool, with her head lowered depressingly.
姉ちゃん。王さんが姉ちゃんのことを心配しているみたい。
Looking at the hesitating little girl, she bit her lips and finally spoke after a while.
大丈夫。もうすぐ終わるよ。
She managed to smile while rubbing the little girl's hair. Noticing the name that was brought up, who was this Miss Wang they were talking about? Maybe I should ask. Who is Miss Wang? Since it was the first time they brought up someone else, I decided to ask when I had the chance.
この前姉ちゃんが。
Suddenly, a bread roll was thrown at me. It hit me right in the face before I could react. Thank goodness it was just a scallion bread. I'd be in trouble if it was a baguette.
黙れ。釜をかけるな。イーリンもだ。あいつに余計なことを話すな。
Yiling. Yiling? I repeated the name quietly. The girl was still scolding her sister, not paying attention to what she just revealed. If they shared the last name, then her full name should be Yiling Huang. The name stuck out to me. It almost felt familiar in a way.
まあいいか。これでもいい。
She passed the knife to the little girl and started to leave the room with the cell phone impatiently.
彼を見張っておいて。私は何がどうなっているかを聞いてくる。電話しても出ないし。
She impatiently mumbled and was about to step out of the room. Calling whom?
あんたは黙ることを学習できないのか？
She coldly stared at me.
誰に会おうとあんたの知ったことじゃない。わかった。お腹が空いたらパンを食べなさい。水もまだ足りてる。すぐ戻るから、どんなことがあっても縄をほどいちゃダメよ。
Hey, what if there is a fire?
あんたは焼け死になさい。彼女が逃げられていればいい。
Fighting for my privilege only got me a merciless look, with the little girl quietly nodding on the side.
もう一度注意してやる。変な気を起こすな。
What else can I do? Barbecue? She wanted to say something while staring at me, but eventually she just grunted and left. The door closed, leaving only me and the little girl inside. We would learn if the ransom really arrived tonight or not. They would only keep a closer eye on me if the negotiation continued. If I wanted to run, that would be the best chance. The little girl had less strength than her sister, nor was she as on guard around me as she used to be. All these choices are like gambling. You never knew what would be your next card. The only thing that mattered was that you only had one chance to bid. Okay, let's see. Let's see. What? Thank you for helping me. Right, I almost forgot to thank you.
なんで?
When I was sick a few days ago, weren't you the one that asked her to buy me some medicine?
私がお願いしなくても、姉ちゃんはあなたを助けたはず。
She awkwardly avoided my gaze, as though admitting that helping me was something to be embarrassed about. I understood her conflicted mind. To her, my gratitude might not be as praise, but criticism. That Miss Wang you mentioned. She was about to talk before immediately shutting her mouth, still remembering her big sister's words. I had to find another way to make her disclose it. She's your family, right? If she was the culprit, she wouldn't have asked her to rest, nor brought them food.
親戚。
She mumbled my words, but finally nodded affirmatively.
王さんがいてくれなかったら、私たちは住む場所すらないし、仕事もない。姉ちゃん以外は、王さんだけが私たちの力になってくれる。
Deep in her memory, she quietly recalled what her lord had. I remembered she said the bread rolls were leftovers, which means they are either from a bakery or a shopping mall. If it was a shopping mall, then they would probably also have bentos and drinks. In other words, they used to work in a bakery. Got another note, boys. She was taken care of by Miss Wang, who worked in the bakery. One more. What do you picture me as? Having no idea how much they misunderstood, I couldn't help but ask. Her answer was surprisingly simple.
お金持ち。
Remembering all the past conversations, I sighed helplessly. I think you must have quite a misunderstanding about rich people. Rich people are not all bad people. She looked at me silently, not really believing me. Let's see. Try to judge for yourself. I don't know what news you've seen, or what your big sister's told you that makes you think all rich people are bad. But what have I actually done? Do you think everything she said is true? Try to judge for yourself with your own eyes. I tried to convince her subtly. If she could understand, then perhaps I could get out of here without much risk.
私にはわからない。
She refused my glance and didn't want to hear more from me. I sighed lightly. If I couldn't change her mind right now, then I had to wait for another chance. It was the 5th day of my kidnapped life. I started to get really tired of the unchanged room. Either was the afternoon sunlight, the reflection in the window, or the air mixed with cigarette and mold smell. I didn't have an enlightening experience. I just wanted to get out of this goddamn place. What's that? Noticing the bag in her hand, I asked out of curiosity.
折り紙。
She took out piles of colored paper. The rainbow of colors really stood out in the depressingly gray room. After a few slick movements she had nimbly made a small paper crane out of it. She moved on to the next paper upon completion, and another one was complete in less than a minute. Paper crane?
できた折り鶴は買い取ってもらえるの。
Oh, working from home. I heard some factories will outsource sewing and packaging to housewives and pay for quantity upon competition. Despite the low pay, many people took on such jobs for convenience and flexible hours.
少しでも稼ぐの手伝いたい。早くお金を返せればいいな。
She was still working while talking. It wasn't long before there was a small pile. It didn't appear to be her first time. She must have been doing this for a while. How was the payment? How much each?
1000羽で2400円。急いでいるなら少し高くなる。
800 per 1,000 cranes. That's less than $1 each. Even if it took only a minute to make one, it would still take 15 hours. That's less than 100 per hourly salary. Less than I expected. That's not much. Isn't this manual labor?
わかんない。折り鶴を買う人はもうあまりいないって。やっぱりみんな新しいものが好きなのかな。
If you were $1 million in debt, even a century would not be enough, let alone the interest. There's no foreseeable hope. No wonder they rather took the risk and kidnapped me. A horse cannot gain weight and not fed with extra fodder during the night. A man cannot become wealthy without earnings apart from his regular pay. Illegal methods are really the only option to make money in the short term without capital. Have you tried jobs with better pay, like restaurants?
姉ちゃんがそういうのに手を出すなって。
She interrupted me resentfully, clearly not happy about it. Confused by her reaction, I tried to explain myself, then I noticed how she was suppressing her emotion by biting her lips. Restaurants. Jobs with better pay. It only took me seconds before I realized what she didn't say. I averted my gaze apologetically. Sorry, I didn't mean to. She quietly lowered her gaze. Her expression did lighten up a little. How much do you owe? Guessing what I had in mind, she quietly resumed working. She knew this little money was inconsequential. She knew what she was doing was illegal. Yet she could only do what she could, even if it was as pointless as filling the ocean with rocks. Do you know the story of the paper cranes? I remember the bedtime story while looking at the paper crane in her hand. So you do know. What an unimaginative way to put it, but I guess they didn't have time for a romantic fantasy. How ironic that the dream-fulfilling paper cranes were made by people without them. I observed her side face with unease. She didn't appear to have much emotion, just as quiet as a pond and fall. The siblings had such drastically different personalities. In contrast to her big sister's anger, she just accepted it without a word. She cared about her big sister's happiness in her current life more than fairness. I didn't know how to respond, so I changed the subject. If you could have a wish, what would it be? That's why I said if. She seemed to take my random question seriously and started to contemplate it. Oi, getting a little greedy here. God won't listen to you if you ask for too many things, you know. She got interrupted by me and started to smile sadly. A smile more heartbreaking than crying. I tried to comfort her but couldn't find the words. I resented myself for even bringing this up in the first place. Looking out the window, it was dusk already and the sun was almost gone. I wasn't sure if they had any luck with the ransom. There was quite an assortment of bread. I had the bread she bought back for dinner. I picked a richer looking pork floss combo and tasted better than I expected. I used to only buy from the bakery that made fresh and organic bread. The price almost doubled, but the taste wasn't really that different. Economic inequality used to be just some fancy catchphrase, and I never truly understood the meaning of it till now. It is unfairness in the extreme. Even if given the same amount of effort, they would never have the same life as me. Not because of my talents, but simply because I was born into a rich family. Some people choose work study and were already hundreds of thousands in debt upon graduation, while others never needed to worry about food or clothes and already had $1 million Taiwan dollars in business capital from their parents. Eventually, these people would compete fairly in the same society. It's ridiculous, really. There's nothing you can do about it. You're powerless against the system. The world isn't fair. That's why she was this helpless. It was getting dark and there was no news of her big sis. I didn't know if she got the money. I started to worry. While I didn't really think they would pay, I still hoped this fiasco could end on a peaceful note. They couldn't get the money. All these thoughts intertwined in my mind. The little girl just ate the various baked goods quietly, not noticing my thoughts. You like sweets? She moved on to an egg tart after finishing her donut, neither of them fitting for a proper meal. She quietly put her hand away like a child that got caught doing something naughty. I like sweets too. She looked at me, her widened eyes beaming with curiosity. The innocence in her expression made me question her age. She looked like a middle schooler, yet her timid personality and over-reliance on her sister seemed to be more like an elementary school kid. Yeah, I like cookies, cakes, and ice cream. Chocolate's nice, but I prefer those with a higher percentage of cocoa. Otherwise, it's too sweet for me. Not really understanding it, she just nodded. She paused her work to grab a magazine from the book pile and flipped through the pages before putting it before me. It was a professional magazine on desserts. There were photos of famous bakeries and detailed analysis on each of them. I could see her notes on some pages, including a white chocolate cake that got specially circled. The pure white cake was decorated with berries and covered in cocoa powder. The elaborate garnish made it more like an artwork than pastry. Nope, I seldom try at a particular store. I only visit a few I know about. Sometimes people would give us some gifts, but I really had a taste of those since I didn't visit home frequently. Speaking of which, white chocolate is actually not chocolate. It's white because there's no cocoa powder. Did you know it's made of cocoa butter and milk solids? She tilted her head and blinked a few times out of confusion. Different ingredients. I heard white chocolate is not as healthy. Can't argue with that. The difference between us was never clearer. Comparing to my health concern, she cared more about the taste. I flipped through the magazine with one hand. There were more pages with notes. I recalled myself doing the same thing on the travel guidebook before a trip. Every stroke of the pen was filled with anticipation. You really want to try them, huh? She lowered her head and I heard her response in a tiny voice. I was getting a little tired of her constant mentioning a big sis. However, she only had her big sis to rely on. She couldn't go to school, and had to become independent way before others. It just wasn't fair to call her ignorant. I sighed. My heart always felt heavy when talking to her. Sometimes I'd rather she were as angry as her sister. At least I wouldn't feel as guilty that way. The magazine was the manifestation of her dream. Desserts, cake, and chocolate. From my perspective, these dreams would never come true. Even if she got the money, I don't think she would be able to bring you on a foodie tour. She looked at me with an expression on the verge of tears. Seeing her depressed expression, I saw all the words I was about to say, regretting the fact that I might have gone too far. I wanted to let her see the reality, but didn't want to hurt her either. With that said, there could be a chance for that in the future. Yep. I repeated myself to give her confidence. The shaky light in the dark lightened up her young face, which was filled with unease and sadness. She knew what her sister was doing. The very realization was what shaped her suffering. But she didn't have a choice. Could she stop her sister and convince her to focus on a proper job instead of kidnapping? There's obviously no way. Even an adult would not be able to give an answer, let alone a kid like her. She's not to be blamed here. The ones responsible were her parents, her guardian, or even her big sis. My thoughts were interrupted by a sound. She was back. Immediately there were countless thoughts in my mind, and I realized I had no time to hesitate. The footsteps were getting closer and my heart beat faster. I clenched and then let go of my hands. The palms were drenched in sweat. Maybe, just maybe, she did get the ransom. Then it would be all over when she got here. No one would get hurt. They could restart their life, a happy ending like all fairy tales. No matter how unlikely it was, I wanted to believe that slight chance, my last chance of escape as the wager. I seldom gamble on anything, and this would be the only time I truly hoped to win. Let's just give up. The girl entered the room with an icy expression. She had none of her usual cool anymore. Her messy hair spread across her shoulders, and I could see nothing but rage and despair in her eyes. I knew the answer without asking. The little girl tried nervously to get closer, but only got shoved aside by her big sis, who walked towards me with big steps. Out of nowhere, a kick landed on my stomach and made me curl up in the pain. Before I could react, a myriad of punches landed on me. The little girl tried to pull her away, but got scared motionless by her sister's yelling. She yelled at me hysterically as though trying to vent all her rage upon me. I managed to cover my head with my hands, trying to shield my crucial parts. There was a taste of blood in my mouth. My body spasmed uncontrollably, and even coughing up gastric juice didn't alleviate the sense of nausea.
いつもこうだ。私は普通に暮らしたいだけだ。どうしてあんたらは私に無理を強いるんだ。どこまで行けばあんたらの気が済むんだ。
The yelling and the crying. The initial burning pain seemed to gradually disappear. All the noise mixed into one everlasting sound in my ear, as though from somewhere far, far away. I naively thought it would work out. I gave up my chance like a coward, believing they would pay. I knew it from the very beginning. I gave up my chance of escape to embrace an unrealistic hope, and here I was. She finally stopped, and the only sound left in the room was the heavy breathing and sobs of the girl. As though hearing her sister for the first time, the girl dropped her fist and faced the crying little girl. Her clenched fists were still trembling. Her standing posture appeared extremely lonely. I couldn't hear her choking up and there were tears in her eyes, but she stubbornly refused to let them drop. She bit her lips and said every word forcefully. It was a declaration and an accusation both, a yell straight from her soul's deepest place. She unclenched her fist, spots of blood on her gloves, and she just laughed, ignoring that. Hearing the familiar words, I finally understood the emotion behind them. It was neither helplessness nor acceptance, but rage and struggling against reality.
もっと苦しめてやってもいいんだよ、私。あんたたちみたいな奴らは大っ嫌い。私の何がわかるんだ。言ってみなさいよ。